Hello, I'm Anthony Horn from MZ. Welcome to today's webinar, where we'll be talking about how to use labour market and skills data as part of your online engagement with students. What I plan to cover today is firstly a very quick introduction to MZ, then a brief tour of a few different reasons why you would want to be using labour market and skills data as part of your online offering right now. Then we'll have a look through some examples of how this can be done and how some UK colleges themselves are already deploying data as part of their switch to pretty much 100% online activity and engagement with students. So to kick things off then, a very quick introduction to MZ for those of you who aren't already familiar with our work. Here in the UK, we're headquartered in Basingstoke. We work with education and a number of other sectors to bring our labour market data expertise to users through a number of different tools and services. And in fact, MZ is a global labour market data firm headquartered in the USA and part of the global Strada education network. And across MZ, our very focused mission is to spend our time investing in delivering solid, reliable labour market data with jobs and skills very much at the heart of that, and providing our tools and services to the outside world and users so that you can make more informed decisions about improving labour market prospects for individuals and supporting the ongoing growth and development of regional labour markets and economies. Now then, why are we even having this discussion? Why even talk about using labour market and skills data online right now? Well, I guess there are a few reasons, and it's useful to remind ourselves of those. And firstly, we have some external factors. Even though at the minute Ofsted aren't conducting inspection visits, we of course all know how much emphasis Ofsted have been placing on providers having a relevant offer that meets the needs of local and regional labour markets, and on providers themselves offering information to students and potential students that helps them progress in their life in general and their career through the labour force. We also know that Gatsby Benchmarks explicitly mention labour market data and the need to link provision with jobs and careers. Now, of course, Ofsted and the Gatsby Benchmarks aren't anything new, but it's good to remember that what we're talking about here isn't just a short-term thing. It's very much a fundamental requirement within the sector. Also looking outwards, it's perhaps an understatement to say right now that we're living through some unusual and challenging times, and that things in the labour market are changing. That is certainly the case. And it wasn't long ago, was it, that all the talk was around automation and the changing nature of work. Some info from a Centre for Cities report on screen here. The notion that jobs are changing, occupations are changing because of automation, and how that is going to impact on jobs themselves and employee demands, and what that all means for individuals in the future. And on screen now, something from our own analysis a few months back, where we analysed how different types of jobs within the UK labour market are exposed to automation based on the tasks within those jobs. And what that analysis basically showed was that lower paid, lower skilled jobs are, generally speaking, those that include tasks most susceptible to automation. At the same time, we saw that an analysis of skill demand from employers themselves over the past 15 years or so has actually shown a significant increase in the demand for interpersonal, personal skills. which is really quite interesting. So things were changing anyway, and then along came COVID-19. And I guess anyone delivering a webinar at the minute about labour market data, not referencing COVID-19, would perhaps be under-delivering somewhat. So I thought I'd share some early insights into what's happening in the labour market. It might feel like this has been going on for a long time, but we're still relatively early doors in the crisis. So we do have some early insights. And what do we know right now? Well, we know that there's been a significant shutdown on most activity in society, and therefore, of course, on the labour market and the wider economy. From an economics perspective, the current situation involves a disruption to both supply, so kind of work and economic output, as well as demand, so industry and consumers buying stuff. Both of those things being disrupted at the same time, which is quite unusual because more commonly in an economic slowdown, both of those things don't happen at the same time. We also are probably all aware that there's various government interventions in place to try and support the economy and people within it. But of course, they need to be, by their very nature, relatively short term. So the timing around the shutdown and the lockdown is really crucial. And that's really going to impact what happens longer term. But sticking with the short term, what else do we know right now? Well, the best and really the only immediate term indicator of what's happening to the labour market is found in job posting and employee recruitment activity data. And while that's not absolute, because it doesn't cover every job in the economy, of course, it is a solid indicator of immediate term employer demand and activity. And as we see here in this chart, there's been a huge fall in employee recruitment activity since the beginning of March. So here on the left-hand side, we see job postings right across the UK. The dark line is 2020 activity, and you can see there the massive nosedive from the beginning of March. If you compare that to the green line, which is 2019 activity, you can see the magnitude of what's happened here in the short term. And then on the right-hand side in this chart, we see the comparison of confirmed COVID cases over the past couple of months. So that's the blue line that curves upwards, and the impact that has had on employers' hiring, which is shown by the green bars. And I guess the striking thing on that chart is how closely the timelines are matched. So COVID-19 has had an immediate impact on employers and an immediate impact on activity in the labour market. If we then think about how different types of occupations, different types of jobs are being affected, we see on this chart the 9 different occupational categories as defined by UK standard occupational classification codes. And what we're seeing here is every occupational category, so every type of job, has been negatively impacted since the beginning of March. And continuing with the bad news, unfortunately, but perhaps unsurprisingly, every geographic area, every regional labour market has been affected by the current situation. Again, that's relatively unusual. If there's an economic slowdown, we sometimes see some regional and local labour markets standing up strong, but in this case, everywhere's being affected. Now, I'm not going to say much more specifically related to COVID-19 other than the biggest factor in determining what happens to jobs in the labour market going forward is how long this shutdown lasts. So while we can't necessarily predict how jobs are going to trend over the next few years with any huge certainty right now, what we do know is that there is historically significant what we call path dependency in labour markets. What that means is whilst individual businesses might not always survive, like we're seeing right now, actually the historic strength of an industry creates a supply chain and a connected labour market, which makes a regional labour market competitive when the economy starts up again and when growth begins to churn again. And so for that reason, of course, there'll be some disruptions to jobs, but particularly if this slowdown and contraction is short, we can expect some kind of return to previous trend, so jobs generally following the path that they were already on. So it's not all doom and gloom, if particularly, fingers crossed, the shutdown doesn't last beyond the next couple of months. So it's certainly fair to say there are a few significant external factors at play right now. Despite those challenges, though, that we're all facing, we do also know that courses need to be designed still, courses need to be delivered in whatever format there can be. Employers and industry will eventually start cranking back into action, and they'll need help. And students themselves and individuals in local economies will still want, and quite frankly, in some cases, because of what's happening right now, they'll need to study and upskill. And so in those senses, the show must go on in many ways. So from a student context, despite everything that's going on, many students and potential students will be considering the things that they would always be considering when it comes to career prospects and how attending a college or another provider can help them. And I guess whichever of the four elements on screen a student starts from, they're all very much interlinked. And when they kind of think about some of the questions that we see here, answering those can absolutely be helped by having good, reliable labour market and skills data. That can help you, it can help students make those more informed, better decisions about their future job prospects. Now, I no doubt could spend the entire webinar talking about what labour market is and what it isn't, but you'll be delighted to hear I'm not going to do that. Just very quickly, one introductory slide here about what most useful labour market data is, and that is data that comes from a combination of large, well-organised structural data. So that's stuff that typically comes from central governmental entities like the Office for National Statistics in the UK, as well as big data sets which tend to be less well organised and need to be sourced from a huge variety of places. But like job posting data, for example, as we've just seen, it can give short-term specific in-depth insight into things like employee demands, skill trends, and is often more up-to-date than the big structural data sets. So by combining the two, we see the most useful insights into what's happening in the labour market, and therefore we apply both types of data to help you and to help students get a better insight into what's happening. So then, in making kind of labour market and skills data useful for students and usable by yourselves and students, the first thing that we want to talk about here is making the course to career linkage. And that's something we're very well versed at MZ. We've been doing it for the best part of 20 years now. So obviously some course areas will link with occupations in a pretty direct linear fashion, like an example we see on screen here. Some courses are more broad, but either way, we can start thinking about which jobs, which occupations courses are linking individuals towards. And then we can start thinking about various metrics that are relevant to those related jobs. So whether that be job change that we've just touched on, whether it be salary information specific to those jobs and specific to particular regions, and even other stuff can be considered, like how those jobs are susceptible to automation. Moving on to how this can all be used online, which is kind of what we're largely talking about today. Well, what I'm going to do now is run through 3 different ways that good, solid, useful labour market and skills data can be used online. Firstly, we'll talk about using an API. Secondly, we'll talk about how to use the MZ Career Coach portal. And thirdly, we'll talk about how to link the data directly into marketing and engagement campaigns. So first up, let's start off with API. Having access to the MZ API will allow you to pipe our data directly onto your website. So you're essentially being granted access to our data which we've sorted into various sections. So, for example, how job numbers are changing, salary information, what skills are needed for each job, etc., that you can then code into your website however and wherever on that website you see fit. So a couple of examples of that. Firstly, here, you might want to use it to show how national job trends are looking versus a more regional job trend, which is something that our friends at Stoke-on-Trent College have done. Next example, here from Boston College. You'll remember we talked a couple of slides back about making that connection between labour market data and courses, course information. So here we see how Boston College have embedded useful data in their course pages on their website. So if we follow a particular course link for the course selected here, we can see how Boston College have data specific to the jobs that relate to that particular course for the region that the college primarily serves, as well as some of the metrics there around salary. So it's about getting that relevant labour market data into the hands of students who are viewing, in this case, your website. So that's API. Secondly, let's move on to look at how the MZ Career Coach portal can also really help your online engagement with students. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Career Coach portal is a fully hosted microsite that we build, which you then link to from multiple locations on your website. And what the Career Coach portal is doing is providing that direct link between your courses and careers, jobs in your region to show that useful labour market and skills data specific to where you exist and, dare I say, relevant to your courses. So we see here Peterborough Regional College, their example of how various different metrics can be shown. So successful colleges will be linking to the Career Coach portal from their website landing page. So as we see here, colleague Cambria doing so with a link on the right-hand side of their main landing page to their Career Coach portal site. We can see here a link in college course pages on the website. So we see the Sheffield College here in a particular course page for a business level 3 course. Over on the left-hand side, a direct link to the Career Coach portal. And we also see some really good examples of where Career Coach can be linked from career advice pages and student support pages. So here we see how Dundee and Angus College are doing that. Now, ideally, to get more success from your online presence with the Career Coach portal, you'd want to be linking from all of the above, right? From your main website, your course pages, your careers advice pages, your student support pages, and various other sections of your website, because it goes without saying that visibility of your online offer and information for students is particularly important right now. So as an example of then using the Career Coach portal, if the user was searching by the course section in the portal, we see an example here from Preston College's Career Coach portal site. We see the various course departments listed. Then once one of those is chosen, in this case beauty therapy, we see the range of courses that are on offer at the college in that department. And then once one of those courses is selected, we'll see both an introduction to some relevant labour market and skills data for occupations relating to that course, and then also a direct link to the course website at the college, and also the application process for the college, so that what Career Coach is doing is driving students to your website, and of course ideally to your application process therein. Now, as well as being able to search by either careers or courses on the portal, There's also an introductory assessment section, which we see on the main landing page of the portal, which is ideal to engage with students and other users who might not necessarily know which course or career path they're definitely interested in at this stage. So it's a nice, easy to use function that highlights things that students actually like doing and their interests. And from there, as they follow a short number of questions through, it will open up suggestions of career pathways and courses at your college that match those areas of interest, and then will help them navigate through the various bits of information and ideally to your application process, as we saw in the previous example. Now, another really important thing to mention is the fact that we've introduced a new editable item on the header bar of the main screen of the portal site. So you see here up there on the top header. And this has been in direct response to one of our colleges asking us to do this, so that there's a clear, very visible link at all times in the Career Coach portal between the portal site itself and, in this case, the new online learning platform that the college has very recently put in place in the current situation. Now, in fact, you could link to whatever platform or indeed other website you like, but what's important is that we here are trying to do our bit to help that intuitive, increased online engagement, which is so important right now. Another nice thing about using the Career Coach portal is that it can help from an analytics perspective. So what reach and impact are your online activities actually having? For example, over and above just raw visits to the college website, what careers and or courses are being looked at by students and potential students? We can also kind of take that to the next stage, and we can analyze what users from different schools, for example, are looking at from a course and a career perspective. So obviously that type of insight is going to be very useful if you're deploying Career Coach portal on things like virtual open days or virtual engagement activities. Then the third and final applied example that I wanted to share is around using labour market and skills data directly within your marketing campaigns. So that can include things like infographics, which I'm sure many of you are producing and providing right now as part of that online presence. And then, of course, we have social media, which must be a big asset to colleges and a big focus for colleges right now. So the various platforms and apps that are available there. And a range of data can be included in those outreach activities and can be kind of creatively and innovatively deployed and displayed, as we see in the various examples on screen here from colleges like North East Scotland College, East Durham College, the Manchester College, and then North Lindsey as well. And finally, not to forget the more traditional methods used to engage with students, so things like prospectuses and course guides, which I know are seeing innovation as part of that online offer. So here we see a couple of examples of that, firstly from the Manchester College, and then again from East Durham College, how relevant and useful labour market and skills data can really add value to the course information in those formats. So in summary then, challenging times, of course, but there's an opportunity here. Online engagement is the big opportunity right now for you to maintain relationships with existing students, to keep existing prospects warm and engaged. And we know that some colleges are in fact going very big on their online presence right now because they have seen the opportunity that the fact that everyone's online, even more than normal, could potentially lead them to engage with even more students right now. As part of that, labour market data can be a really positive addition to those engagements at this time in the year, and should be a vital part of your marketing and outreach content, not just now, but at all times. When it's done well, as hopefully some of those examples have shown you, the data itself and the tools that we can help you use to deliver the data can improve online engagement volumes. It can also give you really rich information about what students are actually looking at and are interested in from a career and course perspective. And a desired outcome of all that will hopefully drive you towards increased applications and enrolments for September starts and beyond. So labour market and skills data can absolutely help you right now. We are here to help you understand it and use it, and really to encourage you to take the opportunity to become and be a real leader for your local community and economy in these challenging times. So do please keep an eye on our website for blog articles and webinars and other resources that we will continue to publish to both keep you abreast of the current situation and all matters labour market and labour market data beyond that. And of course, I'd love to chat individually with you about your plans and how MZ might be able to help you with those. You will receive the recording of today's webinar, so feel free to share that around with other colleagues. And of course, do feel free to reach out to me directly in the immediate term. I'd be delighted to chat. That is the end of today's MZ webinar. Thanks for listening, and I hope you found it useful.